Hey guys, this is Misty Hale, and welcome to the Arkansas Post. Now, you guys may see me sometimes on Free Arkansas with Andy McNeil, which is something I love to do, but I wanted to branch out and do something a little bit more newsy and more regular in looking at Arkansas news and some fun all things Arkansas topics. So today I want to talk about a big ruling that just came down on Arkansas Department of Corrections. So basically in 2023, the Board of Corrections and the governor's office clashed publicly over prison system issues, including the governor's request to increase bed capacity at the prisons. So at roughly the same time in 2023, the legislature passed two laws. It passed Act 183, which changed state law so that the Secretary of Corrections would serve at the pleasure of the governor rather than at the pleasure of the Board of Corrections. Okay. They also passed Act 659, and that altered the reporting structure of the Division of Correction and the Division of Community Correction so that the directors of those entities, answered to the secretary rather than directly to the board. So again, it's running things over to the executive branch instead of under the Board of Corrections. So basically what the case before the Pulaski County Court was, it was the Board of Corrections filing suit saying that those two acts violated Amendment 33 of the Arkansas Constitution. Okay, so that amendment says that constitutional boards like the Board of Corrections cannot have their powers usurped by the governor or the General Assembly. And the ruling today agreed with that assumption. So in December of 2023, the Board of Corrections suspended Secretary of Corrections Joe Porfiry, and then they later fired him, saying that he was acting at the direction of the governor and actually bypassing the board's oversight. So the board filed the lawsuit on December 14th, 2023 in Pulaski County Circuit Court, seeking a declaratory judgment that those two legislative acts were unconstitutional, and they wanted a permanent injunction preventing the enforcement of those unconstitutional acts. So in January of 2024, the Circuit Court granted a preliminary injunction, keeping the board's oversight of the secretary and the division directors intact while the case proceeds. And then in 2025, the Supreme Court upheld that preliminary injunction. So today, the Pulaski County Court ruled in favor of the Board of Corrections. It struck down those two laws, Act 185 and 659, that sought to shift authority away from the Board of Corrections over to the governor. And I want to read one quote from the ruling today. So this is, if you're looking at the ruling, it's Section 9, and it says, Amendment 33 of the Arkansas Constitution provides that powers vested in boards charged with the management or control of all charitable, penal, or correctional institutions shall not be transferred, except in limited circumstances that the governed institution is abolished or consolidated, in which case a new board or commission must be created to assume governance. And again, that is in the Arkansas Constitution. So that was really at the crux of the ruling from Judge James. It'll be interesting to see what happens next. The prison director that was kind of at the center of all this, Joe Porfiry, once he was fired by the Board of Corrections, he was actually hired by the governor to be on her staff as an advisor, and he still serves in that position. And he's actually refused to attend legislative hearings where he was asked to speak about the Franklin County Prison. So there's some drama and some bad blood in that. Another thing that was in the ruling was basically Attorney General Tim Griffin had sought to stop the Board of Corrections from using public funds to pay their attorney or his law firm, saying that the Board of Corrections lacked the authority to hire him. But this ruling today also says that the Board of Corrections does have the authority to hire and pay special counsel for their lawsuits. It basically said, and I quote, because legal representation is indispensable to the board's exercise of its constitutional functions, plaintiffs are entitled to compensate their special counsel and defendants, i.e., Sarah Huckabee Sanders, their employees, agents, or attorneys, that would be Tim Griffin, are permanently enjoined from interfering with plaintiffs' payment of reasonable compensation to such counsel, blah, blah, blah. So it was pretty much an all-out win for the Board of Corrections. We'll see what happens next. We'll see what happens with Joe Porfiry. We'll see if this goes back to the Arkansas Supreme Court. Okay, so today is also filing day. So filing for political office in Arkansas begins today if they're going to be running in the 2026 elections. So here in a little bit, I'm watching those filings, and I'll be bringing a report at the end of the day on who filed for those. So far, there have been about, I don't know, a dozen people that have filed, starting with Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and several Democrats have filed for a state legislative office as well. But we'll be back with more on that later. All right, have a great day. Thanks for watching.